Life is full. It's full of beautiful moments, hard moments, and a whole lot of mundane in between. Often we find ourselves going through the motions, and we end up seeing mostly the hard, mostly the boring, and failing to see the good in our days at all. With Intention is a podcast about changing the narrative. I'm your host, Desiree, and I'm no expert at living intentionally. I'm just here to share my personal learnings alongside stories from others about how we're learning to see the beauty in the mundane, celebrate our beautiful, ordinary, everyday lives, and approach every aspect of them with intention. We'll talk about things like motherhood and family, reflecting and taking care of ourselves, our work, our homes, all the things that make up our days. My hope is that you'll leave our conversations reminded that our beautiful, hard, ordinary, mundane days, this messy life, it's full of good and it's full of purpose and it's meant to be lived well with the utmost intention. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get to today's episode. Hi friend, welcome back to With Intention. I'm your host, Desiree, and I'm so happy you're here today listening in. This is episode 109, and I am excited to be coming to you solo, talking about a little mantra that I have been telling myself lately. The last time I did an episode like this was a few years ago, and the mantra that I was repeating to myself then was, it's okay to change your mind. And it's funny because looking back, that mantra really carried me through this past year. You might have heard me talk about that not just a couple of years ago on the podcast, but over the past year. I've said it over and over again because this year has been one of the biggest changes of mind for me yet. The pandemic started, or more so the stay-at-home order started, about a year ago now. It was supposed to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and here we all still are. We have gone through quite a traumatic year, and I can only imagine that this past year has brought a lot of change for you. I won't talk about all of my changes that I went through in the past year. I've talked about things on previous episodes, but the biggest changes for me have looked like going from stay-at-home mom to full-time working mom, and going back to teaching, which is something I really never thought that I would do. So thankfully, I really am enjoying teaching, and right now I teach English to 12th graders online through a cyber school, and I love it. But regardless, that transition brought a lot of change, especially in the midst of a pandemic. And not just change, but when there is change, there comes a period of adjustment. I realized that for me, through all of this change, through the adjusting, things still don't feel in a rhythm in my life. We still don't have perfect routines set for every area of our life like we'd like to. My meal planning changes with my mood sometimes. My home care, taking care of our homemaking routine is definitely changing by the week. We are just still adjusting here in my family. And soon, school will be out for the summer, and a whole new rhythm will come into play, and more adjustments, and then more adjustments when it's back in session. That summer will probably be a period of reflection for me to figure out how I need to change and adjust for the upcoming year. As I was reflecting on all of this the other day, instead of becoming annoyed at myself for not having it all together, which is typically how I feel, instead of feeling annoyed for the fact that my home isn't super tidy most days, or the meal planning isn't done as great this week as I did it last week, a new mantra popped into my head. And I wanted to share it with you because I know that this has been a year of change and a year of adjustment for all of us in some way or another. Whether you can see yourself in my story of adjustment and you've dealt with career adjustment, or it's just the adjustment to the constant changes that we've been dealing with. We've all been adjusting. So here's a new mantra. It's okay to take time to adjust. Maybe it has been a year of change for you too, and I can imagine that it has. Maybe you're still adjusting, or maybe you still haven't adjusted to what the world feels like right now versus what it felt like a little over a year ago. Maybe you just feel like your routines are entirely off, you don't have perfectly set rhythms and routines at all because change keeps happening and it's hard to keep adjusting. It's okay to take time to adjust. In fact, this week, a new adjustment came into play for many of us, at least in the US and anywhere else that observes daylight savings time. Whether you have kids or you are just a human that enjoys getting a specific number of hours of sleep, this time change threw so many of us off. We lost an hour of sleep last Sunday, and I don't know about you, but I am still trying to adjust. I've seen so many conversations in groups that I'm in on Facebook, or I've seen it on Instagram, that people are feeling disappointed with themselves for snoozing their alarm and not getting in their early morning workout or not following up with their morning routines. But isn't it clear that when we lose an hour, our bodies need time to adjust? Just that small change is big for our bodies. It's okay to take time to adjust. It's okay if your sleep has felt off this week. It's okay if you are snoozing the alarm a little bit. We will get back to feeling normal about the new time that we're living in. But right now, a lot of our bodies are adjusting, and it's okay. I just think that the human body and the human spirit in general is amazing. It's amazing how our bodies do adjust and adapt to things. It's amazing how we can adjust and adapt to constantly changing things. Like this past year with the pandemic and the different restrictions and how everything was constantly changing and still is. It was traumatic, all of these adjustments and adaptations we were forced to make. It's okay that it has taken time to adjust. You don't have to be perfect. You don't always have to be on top of your game. You don't have to have everything perfectly planned out. Your house does not have to be perfectly tidy all of the time. In fact, if you try to live by those standards, most likely you will come to a breaking point. You will come to a point where it's not realistic to keep up like that anymore. It's not possible. Maybe in a previous season you were able to do that. You were able to have more of a plan. You were able to tidy your home every single day and be on top of everything else, all of the routines that you'd like to have in your day. And maybe this season is just not that. Maybe this is a season of adjustment and you've had to let some things go, even if you didn't notice you were letting them go, even if you don't want to be letting them go. It's okay. It's okay if things look different, if things look messier, if things look less together. Here's what I want to ask you if you are in a season of adjustment. How are you? How are you doing? Not your routines, not how are you keeping up with it all, not what are your strategies for making it all work and keeping it all together. I sometimes get that question of how do you do it? How do you do the full-time working mom thing and the pandemic thing and the childcare thing, and how are you still doing the podcast as well? And the answer is that I don't. I do not do it all. I definitely don't do it perfectly. I'm still adjusting. This podcast comes late or on whatever day I can get it out. Our house is a mess some weeks. Some weeks I'm on top of everything. Some weeks I'm caught up. And some weeks I'm not. Actually, there are very few weeks where I'm on top of everything, but most weeks I'm not. It's okay to let go of some things in a season of change and as adjustments are being made. What is important is how you are. How are you doing? How are your people? How are the people that you are tasked with caring for and loving on? How are you and how are your people? Those are the important things. It's okay to take time to adjust, but in those adjustment phases, whether they are a week or a month or an entire year, I'm raising my hand on the entire year thing, it's important to take care of people. And you, it's important to take care of you. Your physical, your mental, your spiritual health. Take care of you. Take care of your relationships. I can't say I've done those things perfectly this past year either. And It won't look perfect for any of us, but how can we keep those things at the forefront and remind ourselves it is okay to let the other things go a bit? Because that's the point that I've come to. I've realized that it feels a little bit normal to just have all of the things I thought once were important to have all together. I've realized that in this season, it feels more normal and it feels more okay to just let go a little. Let the grip go, let things be imperfect, and take care of the people. Take care of the people around me, take care of my relationships, and take care of myself. But how do we do that? How do we put those things in the forefront and remind ourselves that it's okay to let the rest go? I think there are 2 steps that have helped me. One is to have non-negotiables. What are the non-negotiables that are going to keep you sane, keep your mental health going, keep you in a good place? What are the non-negotiables when it comes to taking care of the people around you? And that's going to look different for all of us. I'll share a couple of mine here in a second, but that will look different for all of us. But what are your non-negotiables to take care of you and take care of your people around you? And then what are the bare minimums? So there are the non-negotiables, which these are the things that we do want to keep up our routines around, or figure out a new routine, figure out a way to make it work and make sure these things are happening so that we can stay healthy. I'm not encouraging you to let everything else go completely. I'm encouraging you to choose a bare minimum and let go beyond that. I want to take a quick break to thank our sponsors who are helping make today's episode of With Intention possible. If you've been a longtime listener of the show, you know that I love Bombas. Bombas makes the most comfortable sock in the history of feet. They have rethought every little detail of the socks that we wear and have made them more comfortable. I love wearing them for just everyday foot comfort, but I especially love the comfort that they provide while working out. My favorite part is the fact that they don't slide around my feet. I really cannot stand when socks slide around my feet, so Bombas is perfect because they do not do that. These socks do more than keep your feet cozy, though. They also give back to the most vulnerable members of our community. For every pair of socks that you purchase, Bombas donates a pair to someone in need. The generosity of Bombas customers has allowed them to donate over 40 million pairs of socks and counting through their nationwide network of 3,000 plus giving partners. To those experiencing homelessness, these socks represent the dignity of putting on clean clothes, a small comfort that's especially important right now. You can give a pair when you buy a pair and get 20% off your first purchase at bombas.com/intention. That's bombas.com/intention for 20% off your first purchase. bombas.com/intention. I also want to thank Public Goods. Public Goods is a one-stop shop for sustainable, high-quality, everyday essentials. That's everything from coffee to toilet paper and shampoo to pet food. Public Goods is the everything store for the conscious consumer. I love Public Goods because they are committed to finding clean, healthy, eco-friendly, and innovative products. I personally love their dental floss. Yes, dental floss. And I don't like flossing my teeth, but I like knowing that I'm using floss that is made with just clean and simple ingredients. And I love the little reusable glass floss container that it comes in. On the opposite side of the spectrum, I also love their cocoa almonds, and those do not last more than a couple days in our house because we just love them so much. Public Goods has sustainability implemented into every aspect of the company, and knowing what's in our products and where they come from is important. Small changes in the way that we shop can make a big impact on personal health and the world at large. To make it even better, their membership model keeps costs low and passes on even more savings to their customers. And you can make your first purchase with no obligation. With Intention listeners can try Public Goods and receive $15 off their first Public Goods order with no minimum purchase. Go to publicgoods.com/intention or use code INTENTION at checkout. That's Public Goods, publicgoods.com/intention to receive $15 off your first order. Let's get back to today's episode. So, what does that look like? Let's start with, for me, non-negotiables. Here are some non-negotiables that come first for me to make sure that I'm focusing on the health and well-being of myself and my family. And these aren't in any order. I just kind of made a list. Movement and physical health and getting outside is important for my family and I. And we have routines around it. We make it happen pretty much daily. Being present together is a non-negotiable, and it's one that sometimes we struggle with, but having time in the evening together, all being in the same room and trying to have family movie nights, things like that keep us present with one another, keep us present on the weekends, since we do spend time apart during the workday. Food and nutrition is a non-negotiable for us, even though I mentioned that meal planning sometimes goes out the window. We keep it easy however we can if we're in a season of adjustment. We rely on meal boxes or meal planning services when we need to. And some weeks I'm able to prep and plan and do all the things. And some weeks it's just a lot of already prepped foods, a lot of easy foods to grab and go for when we need them. It looks different, but it is a non-negotiable for us. Another non-negotiable is fun. Enjoying each other, doing fun things together. Yes, it looks different, over this past year because of the pandemic, but we have been making sure that we've made that a priority and a non-negotiable, doing the things we love, having fun time together either way. Faith is a non-negotiable, and I admit that I have let go of my routines around this, but it's one that is a non-negotiable and does keep my mental health intact and my spiritual health intact when I make it a priority. So it's one of those things that it's on my non-negotiable list. If it does get let go, it's one of those things that I need to get a plan around this ASAP. I need to figure out how to make this part of my day ASAP if I'm not doing that right now. And then for me, another non-negotiable is alone time and quiet. That might look different for you if you're an extrovert, but I am an introvert. And by the end of the week, even though I work from home, I still need just space to be. And usually this might be once a week at the very most right now. It might be just built in 1 hour at the end of my workday while my husband is picking up my daughter. It just depends on our season because half the year my husband is coaching and the other half he isn't, but I require alone time. It is a non-negotiable for me, and we try to work together as a family to make that happen. It's not a lot. It's just a small chunk of time, either sprinkled throughout the week or all in one on a weekend, to help me breathe and keep me mentally healthy. So what are your non-negotiables? Make a list of things that keep you happy, that keep you mentally healthy, that keep you physically healthy, that keep taking care of you, and then a list that takes care of your people and your family. What are the non-negotiables? What are the things that even in a period of adjustment, you need to make sure that you are focused on and making time for those things? And then category number 2 is the bare minimums when it comes to everything else. So when I think of the bare minimums, I think of what our house has looked like pretty much this entire school year. Our house gets let go of at least once a week, and we take an hour or two on the weekends to get it mostly back in order. It's never, ever perfect these days. That's our bare minimum when it comes to the chores, the housework. But that's something that we need to keep a bare minimum in right now. To be honest, I've got a bare minimum on this podcast right now. I used to spend a lot of time promoting it and building community around it, and I loved that. And I think it's something that I want to come back to eventually. But right now, my bare minimum is creating content for the podcast itself and getting an episode out to you each week or every other week when I'm going through a really busy time, so that I am still being able to create and I'm still being able to share my story and share my heart with you all and share other stories through guest episodes. It's something that matters to me, but it's something that I need to keep a bare minimum on right now with everything else that's going on. So those are 2 areas of our lives where we've got a bare minimum going. But What areas of your life do you need desperately to just mentally let go of? And so what I mean is that you might have already physically let go of it. Like you cannot get a hold on your house, or your bathroom sink is always cluttered right now, even though it used to be super tidy and it's just always cluttered. And it's frustrating to you because not necessarily because it's really an issue, but maybe it's because you've got this mental hold on it, thinking, I need to get a hold on that. I need to get it together. I need to get myself together. What is wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. Maybe you are just in a different season than you used to be. Maybe you're still adjusting. Maybe it's just not a priority anymore, and that's okay. It's okay to take time to adjust. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay for things to be different levels of priorities in different seasons. Maybe you had it all together in the past on certain things, but now you just need a bare minimum to keep things alive, to keep things going, to keep things moving, to keep you sane. But you need to let go of the perfection mindset around that mentally and just embrace that bare minimum. I hope you'll remind yourself that as we're in the throes of daylight savings time, as we are still working through this pandemic, and as you may be in the midst of other changes as well, it's okay to take time to adjust. It's okay to take time to adjust. And I don't mean just a week or a month. It could take a lot longer, and it's okay. Set some non-negotiables and set some bare minimums. Let go of the perfection mindset. Embrace this season of adjustment. Do the things that matter most. Keep going and let go of the rest. I hope this was helpful to you in some way. I hope it maybe just gave you some grace where you might have needed it, or helped you breathe a little bit today. I know that I was mentally holding on to my house and perfectly uncluttered home a lot of this year. And just recently I realized that it's just not going to happen. Not right now. I'm still trying to figure out good routines around working motherhood and podcasting and family life and everything else. And it just doesn't matter if my house is perfect right now. And that's my personal vice. But maybe yours looks different. Maybe it's something else that you just cannot get a handle on. And mentally you've been beating yourself up about it, or you've been holding on to it and trying to find a way. But it's okay if things are different in this season. And it's okay to take time to adjust. And I just hope that you embrace that today, because it's freeing. It really is. Thank you for being here again. Thank you for listening in. Share this if it was helpful to you or if it spoke to you in any way. I appreciate it so much if you just share with a friend or share on social media somehow. I am super thankful for you for that. I'm thankful for you for being here, and I will talk to you right back here again on the next episode.